Beautiful.
Inspirational.
Striking.
Eccentric.
Windy.
Exciting.
Trendy.
Midgy.
Creative.
Happy.
And historical.
It's a place that draws you. There's a warmth about it and a welcome.
It's far, far too cold for me.
It's unique, it's quirky.
Quirky.
Friendly. Quirky.
After 40 years of Italian life, I've learned this word, quirky. I'm not sure what it means, but...
It used to have the title of the Lesbian Centre of the North. Well, I think there's been a spin-off from that, because they brought other interesting people along.
Diverse.
Friendly.
Creative. Busy.
Quirky. Friendly. Community.
Funky little town.
Welcoming.
That's good.
It's just one of those areas you tend to gravitate towards. It's like a glove that fits, really.
I think that whenever people try to describe it, it's always a bit wrong. I think that even if a place is quite small, it's quite complex. People have called it, the Hampstead of the North, or a drug town with a tourist problem. It's complicated, there's people here who've got money, there's people here who haven't got anything. And I like to think the one thing is that we try and have a sense of community in the town.
I love it.
If you just look and see, you can see beyond the tourists, you can see beyond, people in the pubs. And there are a lot of people who are struggling here.
I think what they need to do is stop developing this area now. I know at one point it was a very sleepy mill town and it did need developing, but I think they're going to spoil it.
I find I've been influenced by living here. I've got all sorts of tinctures now. I've got a dandelion tincture, a Montmercy cherry tincture. I'm taking turmeric tablets. I would have laughed at that before I moved here. The dentist said she didn't think I was the type, but it turns out I am.
I came here in 1975 for the first time. It was like one Sunday afternoon we had a recce from Manchester just to have a look at the place, and it was a ghost town. The only thing open were the churches and the pubs. The pubs were closed at 3 o'clock, churches closed about 12 o'clock. The rest of it was like a ghost town. The people that were coming here, it's like it started off as a stream, a steady stream, and it was a stream that attracted me. I wanted to know where everyone was going.
Who should I talk to next?
Ooh, that's a bit probing.
You should definitely talk to Heather Wilson down the hall.
Alison over at Hart Gallery.
Have you talked to David at the mill?
to John Siddiq?
I don't know, you could talk to Pam.
Recommend
Loads
somebody.
of people. You should go and speak to people at Recycle Radio.
Have you spoken yet to Sue Mellis at the Egg Factory?
Down by the railway station.
Don't know. Who can you talk to next? I think you might not get a coloured view from a lot of people in Hebden as me.
You're going to be speaking to some of the old boys, don't you? Some of the old characters.
My name is Jeff Garner and I'm 77 years old. I moved into Hebden in the 80s. I fell out of the rat race. I wanted to watch the grass grow. I live actually down in the town. Nice quiet little cobblestone street and I love it. I make anything in leather. It goes from belts to bondage to bags to anything. As I always say, they'll carry me out of here feet first. As long as people want what I do, then I'll carry on doing it. I would like to pass all that knowledge and everything on. I don't want somebody sort of knocking on the lid and saying, Jeff, can you just do this little job?
Well, I spent 50 years trying to change Hebden Bridge. The Hebden Bridge that I grew up in was quite unlike what we have today. I grew up when it was Trouser Town. Every tea time when the shifts came out of the mills, there was the sound of clogs across the square as they all went for their evening paper and a long queue for the bus and you name it. It was a lively town, but filthy. The air was full of smoke and smog. The buildings were all black, the trees were all black, the pavements were all slimy. It seemed permanently damp and permanently dark.
Eclectic.
Touristy.
Welcoming.
Alternative.
Vibrant.
Sunny.
Unrivaled.
Wet.
And happy.
Accessible is on a great train line.
Rooted in hard work.
And it's very proud.
This valley, not just Hebden Bridge, but this valley was the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution. It's where experiments were carried out and people discovered how to mechanise the processes in producing textiles, initially based on adapting water wheels that had been put in for other purposes. In the 10 years between 55 and 65, about 50 of the small factories in Hebden Bridge closed permanently, and they were just left as gaunt reminders of what had been. We went from trouser town to ghost town in about 10 years.
In the late 60s, I think it was 1969, the Arts Council granted a certain amount of money to have a festival in Hebden Bridge, and it was held on Calder Holmes Park, and it was called Awake. And it was this kind of left field arts festival, and it just happened in big tents and marquees on the park. And there were people who went into the tent on the Friday evening wearing a school uniform and short hair, and on the Sunday night they came out wearing kaftans and long hair, you know, because it just transformed people in just a weekend.
I have a strong opinion about why I love Hebden Bridge. You know, I'm from California, which is full of chain stores, and then I lived in London, and I've lived in Glasgow, and I lived in Manchester, and all of those places looked like America. And I came here and got off the train from Manchester, which was only half an hour away. I got off the train and thought, what is this place? It didn't have Starbucks and Pizza Hut and McDonald's, and I thought, this is the butcher, baker, and candlestick maker. And I think most Americans think this is what England, all of England looks like. Of course it doesn't. And then the more I got to know people, I thought, it's just, I love it. Yeah, I can't believe my luck of living here.
Overall, I would just say that it's such a tolerant place, you know. It's such a melting pot for all sorts of different people. Diversity, in one word.
I've been working around here 30 years, and in all this time I've been working... Do you know what, boys and girls? I'm too quick for
My name today is Dolly. Dolly generally decorates the place, makes it look very beautiful, and parades about, and when not parading about, swans about. What I'm doing is scaring the granddads, with it being a village fete here up in Hepton Stall, and I don't normally do this until like panto time at Christmas. I'm dressed as a fire engine with a rather impressive bustle and a meerkat on my head.
It's usually the other lady that sings on her.
I'm Gina Wall, and this is Ava, my granddaughter. We've been waiting for a nice sunny day to be able to come, and we've been waiting a long time. I love it here, so it's nice to come out.
I love it as well.
Especially when it's been such a nice sunny day all day.
Well.
We love it here, don't we? Yeah.
The neighbours come out when the sun shines.
Yeah. I like walking along the canal because it's so peaceful and it's nice to get away from the traffic.
Park.
The park. You both like parks, don't you?
Calm down, calm down.
Vicky, Sally, Ross, Gaynor. I'm a minister, dragged out of retirement and very, very happy about it.
Vicky, are you one of the hippies?
I just missed the hippie, but I was a hippie. I had the bell bottoms and the tie-dye and the leather headband. How good is that?
Oh, did you have bells on your skirt?
I certainly did.
Yes, I was a hippie. Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Flowers in your hair, bells on you tinkled as you walked.
You know that summer I love they're talking about? that feeling was still there, like we have in our church today. Help each other.
We're people of faith. We're Christians. There's a lot of spirituality, New Age spirituality.
Deep spirituality,
Yeah,
deep.
yeah.
And acceptance.
This place is very special for me. And pretty soon we hope we're a very small church, very small congregation. This wonderful, magnificent building, we really hope is going to be a big community facility. So I'd like to see, whether they have faith or not, the whole of Hebden Bridge trooping into this place because it's their building. This belongs to Hebden Bridge. Come in and walk in that chapel and sit there, and then you tell me that there's not 100 years, 150 years of prayers soaked into the walls. You can feel it.
I don't think there is a favourite haircutting. Probably a side parting and a little quiff thing at front. That's kind of thing going on, but there's no favourite, and everybody's quite unique. There's a lot of diverse people around, so every day's different for us.
I'm just looking at your hair, and is that got a name, that style?
No, it's sort of a quiff.
Right, sort of a quiff.
Sort of a quiff. Come over. Coming over a lot more than I used to do anyway.
My name is Ella Kennedy.
Damien
My name is Sadiro Boone.
Jack Spencer.
My name is Chris Thomas.
Yeah,
Richard
Whittaker.
I'm Patricia
My name is
Roger Jackson.
My name is
David Fletcher. I was born in Mytham Road.
This is Mabel, who is my dog, and we're quite a familiar sight in Hebden Bridge. Me wheeling around in my wheelchair, and Mabel with her little red jacket coming along beside me.
My name is Mal Campbell.
My name is Caroline.
Satnam Singh.
You know, I used to look around the place and think, yeah, it's all really beautiful and everything, but what the hell would you do here?
What is your favourite place in Hebden?
I can't really say. I think it would be the historical character of the mills, because my parents were mill owners. You know, you're born into these tall factories with lovely chimneys, I mean, which are architecturally beautiful within the hills.
The Hebden Valley, from Salem Fields here, right up through Midgewell, Harcastle Crags, through to Walshire. Because that's childhood memories, really. It was our playground as children. All the things that lads used to get up to them days: shooting, fishing, making dens, lighting grass fires, raiding orchards, running away from the local bobby. But generally it was a fantastic childhood.
Favourite place?
Yeah.
Towards Ted Hughes's house, up round there in the beech groves there. So they're really fantastic in the autumn.
Do you know what, the thing I'd really like doing, and I've done it this afternoon, is actually walking around Hebden. I'm currently exploring. You go up the Martham Steeps, there's a footpath and road going up to Jack Bridge, and you go past the Lum Mills, upper and lower. And to me, the real hidden part of Hebden is just how many walks there are, where you're no more than a mile away from the actual centre, but it'll take you half an hour to get back down, and you'll wander through places where there used to be industry and now nature's just reclaimed it. The Lum Mills is only two very tall chimney stacks just sticking out of the forest with trees growing around them. And it's just quite strange to stumble across those places.
Just outside Hebden, it's called Lum Falls. You go down the beaten track, down into the riverbed, and there's a waterfall down there. A lot of kids were brought up at Lum Falls.
There's so many little spots around here. Just the beautiful countryside and the peacefulness and just the nature, and I just think it's a special place.
Well, I've got a secret rock up the crags. I mean, I go up the crags all the time, and I don't know if anybody knows about it, but I stand on it many a day and just shout things in a nice way, not horrible things, but deep in the crags, overlooking Hebden Stall. It's very special for me. My little rock, I call it the Carly Rock, because one of my first dogs I took for a walk, and she was 22 years of age. She came up there every day of her life, and I call it the Carly Stone because I've written her name on it. People might know it actually if they've gone past it at the crags.
I think I like Eves Wood just behind our house.
Yeah.
That was what attracted us to our street that we've moved to. It's beautiful.
Yeah, the wood's actually coming up to Hebden Stall. You can walk down to where we live from here, and they're huge old trees. They're very beautiful. Yeah.
I always talk about where the water wheel is down by the station, but not a lot of people know about it. If you go down by the stonemasons and round, and I discovered it when I was a teenager, when I was just out walking and exploring, and I came across it, and there's this fabulous old water wheel, all rusted up.
The praying hole. It's just down in the wood, and there's a natural sort of hole in a rock that you can climb up the bank in and go and sit in it. But they used to hold, I think on May Day, they used to get the local vicar would go down there and have a bit of a sermon. I only used to go because my auntie used to cook the most amazing breakfast. So I'd get out of bed early and go and enjoy that, just to go and have this full English breakfast that my auntie cooked. That's probably one of my favourite places.
There's a place I sit on that side of the hill sometimes, because you can see all the way down the valley, and it's just beautiful. So I just sit, and I generally sit with somebody's dog, because I walk dogs, so I generally sit with somebody's dogs and just take a bit of fresh air in a few minutes.
I tend to take the kids where I was taken. So my two kids, we call it a 3-mile walk. I've yet to measure it yet because my mum called it that. I think it's just so we thought it was walking 3 miles, but it's a walk over Horshold Road, all the way up past the TV antenna, and then all the way back down Crowness Woods.
I like the little secret footpaths and the shortcuts and cuckoo steps and the steps that lead up to Palace House Road. The places the cars can't find. I like that about Hebden.
I'll tell you what I like the square, and if you go over the bridge from the White Swan, there's a tree there that we call the dancing tree, because when you look at it from a certain angle it looks like it's got its leg up in the air and it's dancing. On a Sunday afternoon, you know, when there's a couple of buskers playing or there's something on in the square, it's just a great place to be.
I think in Hebden Stall I do like to sort of walk around the village, maybe when it's a bit drizzly and there's no tourists about and it's quieter, and just wander around the churchyard and around the old church. And it's such an ancient place. It's been here since, I don't know, medieval times, and just think about the other people that have walked here and the other people that have lived here.
Favourite place? Okay. I don't think you can beat just sitting down on the wavy steps, watching the ducks go by. They rule the roost round here. They do. Cars give way to ducks. That's the way it should be.
In the winter, because it's a narrow valley, it gets quite dark.
My dad always used to say in Yorkshire, it's either just finished raining, is raining, or is about to rain.
Here you get all the different seasons, you know, you get the snow, you're alright, you get the rain, you get the sun, I mean you get the summer and the spring, and you notice it.
Sometimes I like rain when you're inside and you're nice and cosy, and if it's really heavy I like that cosy feeling of being inside.
There's definitely, you can feel an air of panic, and my walls are very leaky, so I do worry about that.
Having been here for 20 years, it's the third major flood that happened to us in 2015, and that's not to mention the smaller floods that have happened down the years.
When it rains just like normal rain, I'm thinking, it's not going to flood, it's fine. But when it's like rain, I'm like, oh dear.
It takes a lot of water for it to flood in this valley. nature has to really concentrate to make things difficult for us. When I was a kid, people used to talk about the floods of the 1940s, and that was like melting snow and that kind of thing. And it's not surprising, because Hebden Bridge is in a valley which has been carved out by water, and that's why Hebden Bridge grew up, because they built the mills next to the water for the water power and so on. But to have the sheer volume of water that we had on Boxing Day 2015, it was apocalyptic, and I've never ever seen anything like that before. You see it on the news in other countries and you think, well, that's the kind of thing that happens there, but you don't imagine it would happen to that extent in this valley, and it nearly took the town out. And if it hadn't been for the tenacity of the locals, we wouldn't be here, that's for sure.
I try not to let it worry me. It does. There's no escaping that. It does worry me, it does make me anxious, but there's nothing you can do. You can't stop Mother Nature.
And then when we drove through the next day, the day after Boxing Day, I remember sitting in the car and kind of like not talking and trying not to look outside, but the only thing I could do was look outside because it was just like covered in dirt.
Hopefully it won't be as bad as last time. That was, I firmly believe, a once in a lifetime kind of flood, but it will come again. It will come again, because it always has.
I don't think anything when it rains, really, and to be quite honest, the last bad flood we had, we put the sandbags round on Christmas night, and I went up to bed thinking never floods at this time, it only floods in June. So what a shock I had.
What's your name?
My name is Jane Innes Dickens.
What's your job?
My job is a health visitor.
What do you think of when it rains?
When it rains, I think about how much the ground needs a drink, and I think how lucky we are to have lots of water compared to some countries that don't have any, although sometimes we have too much, and I wish we could send it away to the countries that need it more.
So thoughts for the future? I'm positive the town will never drown, but I'm a little bit anxious that not everybody would be able to endure the same event, the same level of distress, the same level of torment, and nor should they. It was terrible enough first time round.
Man's passion for controlling nature is age old, and you'll never do it. So do your best, build your house out of bricks, not straw, and be ready for the next one, because the next one will come, and flood-proof so that we can have a quick recovery. And I think all will be well.
The way that everybody came out and the way that communities came from far away, it was really moving.
It's a challenge, we have to work through this.
Rain less! But not too much less, just we need some rain.
I'm at that point of life where I don't let things bother me. If it rains, it rains. If it don't, that's me. We were standing outside the other day when it was hailstoning, trying to catch them. No matter what happens to Hebden Bridge will bounce back every time.
About Hebden, a secret.
Secrets, its great secret is its individuality.
Well, there's a couple of underground tunnels which lead from the certain parts of the sorting office across to Market Street, which they've not been used for a long time. I'm guessing they're probably flooded.
I've not been here long enough to know secrets. I do, but I can't tell you. Yeah.
People might not know that our building was originally an auction house, and we have a really ornate, huge safe embedded in the wall that still stems from that time. I mean, we didn't know until we had the flood and we started to knock back that we had 2 fireplaces set into the walls as well. So the flood sort of made us discover things about our environment.
I've not seen him all this long day, or do I wanted to ride this way?
My psychiatrist, one of them, used to practice here
because per head of capita, the percentage is the highest anywhere in the UK of nutters like me. There's a carved head on that bridge just along the towpath there. Some mad person decided to carve a stone head because there's nothing better to do.
Probably no secrets about people, because it's funny, people will tell you things if they think you're not from here, but I don't think, none that I'll tell.
There's an amazing story about these two women who used to live up at Dawson's City, which was the area where people were living in kind of like a shanty town whilst they were doing building work. Two women, Mrs. Adams and Mrs. Noland, I think, who used to have a competition by sitting in a tin bath full of flour to see who had the biggest bottom. And when we had an event at Easter time to celebrate all things Hebden Bridge, we actually recreated the competition. We had a tin bath, we put some flour in it, we made these gigantic aprons and got people to put their bottoms in it, and then whoever had the biggest bottom got a badge saying, "I've got the biggest bum." So I think that's quite an unusual fact about Hebden Bridge.
Yeah, but see, if I told you, it wouldn't be a secret anymore. I've only been here 10 years, and I understand you need to live here for about 100 years before you become a local. So the whole place is still my secret.
It's not much of a secret, because the most incredible expression of this community is the handmade parade. There are thousands of people that have all a common goal, and that is to express beauty for nothing. It's absolutely wonderful, and every time I see it, I cry. You know, I'm a big strong man, but tears come to my eyes every time the handmade parade goes through the cafe.
I've got a secret garden where I live, which is a stone. I can't tell you where it is, because it wouldn't be a secret anymore. We have a secret garden on the other side of our road, which is a very Hebden Bridge thing, that you get these little pockets of garden, and as is on the upper side of the road, you go through a tiny gate up some very, very steep steps, and it opens out into a really lovely little garden tucked away.
There used to be a cat in the Cross Inn. That was a mummified cat that was found in the walls of the old church when they dismantled part of it, and this cat was on the wall of the pub for however many years. Anyway, I think in the 60s or 70s the cat disappeared, was stolen from the pub, and apparently some young labourer who was emptying out one of the derelict houses in the late 80s came across what he just thought was a dead cat and threw it in the skip. And it wasn't till a few years later, when he was talking to one of the old-timers from the village, that he described this dead cat, and they said that was the mummified cat from the Cross that was stolen, and probably whoever nicked it just chucked it inside the derelict house.
Here's a secret of Hebden Bridge. Hebden Bridge had the first lottery in the UK. You used to offer £100 first prize if you won the local lottery, and all of the profit went to local good causes.
Thanks a lot, see you later.
I don't know if you've ever been to Hebden Bridge on Duckways Day, but what an experience. It is fabulous, and it still remains one of my favourite events of the year. It's brilliant.
Tell you what, I didn't realise how thriving Canal was. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you get people on it at from 6 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock at night. Dog walkers, cyclists, people just cutting through. You know, it's like a world on its own. 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. I never even thought about going and walking on Canal. But now it's open. Sometimes it's like M62. Yeah.
Any secrets? There's no police.
Before I was head teacher, I was a police officer in Hebden Bridge for 11 years in and around Happy Valley. And when Happy Valley came on television, I realised that the Happy Valley title had been pinched from somewhere, because that's what we used to know it as police officers. Bob Bridgestock, who is a crime writer, was my DCI when I was a probation at Sorby Bridge. They were all sat round a table and couldn't come up with a name for the programme. And Bob obviously just went, well, why don't you call it Happy Valley? Because that's what we used to do.
I've been told that there are mountain bikers who, really keen mountain bikers, pretty young guys who secretly go into the woods with shovels and build ramps in places that nobody will know and practice jumping through the forest on their bikes. And occasionally when I've been out, I've seen these little ramps, little mounds of earth that you wouldn't know existed unless you were walking through the forest.
When I left school at 3 o'clock, when they threw me out of school, we used to go to the mill across the road, and you could climb through windows and things and play in the mill because it was shut down, and we never did anything bad. It wasn't like that. It was no vandalism. It was, you take a skateboard and you play in a mill, in an empty derelict mill, and it was great. But now it's nothing like that because they're all apartments and houses. So I think you'd have to ask the kids if they've got any secret places, because if they have, I'd like to know.
What's your name? Olivia Jones. I'm a student at Old Town School. Theo. Lisa Lancaster. My name's Harry Bedford. I'm at How long have you lived in Hebden Bridge? All my life. About 7.5 years. 11 years. That's a long time. Describe Hebden Bridge in 5 words. Caring, amazing, beautiful, small, busy, friendly, adventurous, exciting, fun, creative, beautiful, small, and funny. Unusual. What is an important place for you in Hebden Bridge? It's our sweet shop because I can eat lots of sweets.
Probably the sweet shop because I went there most of my life.
The wavy steps because we used to feed the ducks there when I was little.
Yeah. What do you think when it rains? It's annoying.
Hebden is famous for its strong opinions. Do you have one you'd like to share?
No, not really.
Thank you.
You have one? Yeah. I want them to sort out the flood defences so my mum's business doesn't get flooded again. Thank you. Thank you.
We rub shoulders with all sorts of people, don't we? From farmers to milkmen to, professionals or are commuting to London, Manchester. They're all here.
Postmaster at Hebden Bridge, Post Office.
Jack's Barber Shop, Hebden Bridge. Silly Billy's Toy Shop. Butchers and bakers and candlestick makers.
Retail butcher.
Cleaning and gardening and dog walking and anything really.
A writer.
I were a welder.
A bike shop, circle shop.
Joinery and building work.
I'm a primary school teacher.
I'm a pharmacist.
Joinery apprenticeship. I am an artist.
A landlady.
I'm the head teacher at Riverside Junior School in Hebden.
I'd make anything in leather.
I'm retired, sir.
Both a musician and poet.
We are in Drink, a bar and bottle shop.
Organic bread shop.
I'm the sign manager at Riverside Junior School.
The last trouser factory in Hebden Bridge.
I'm a shopkeeper.
And I sell cars.
A working community.
I was originally farmer born and bred. No previous butchers in the family, but always in and around butchery, as my father was a farmer and cattle dealer all around the Calderdale area. I'm first generation butcher, yeah. And I'm unfortunately destined to be the last. But when I came to Hebden 34 years ago, there were 7 butchers in town. So there's quite a bit of competition. Through various reasons, they've diminished. Supermarkets may be largely to blame. Different demographic of the town. Not as many people shop in Hebden as live in Hebden.
I like the variety of people. I think it's a microcosm of a city almost. You get every person from every walk of life. You can walk into one of the pubs in the village and you can either be talking to a plasterer or a social worker or a doctor.
There is no kind of normal here. It feels a lot more sort of open to different people, and that's, I think, quite unusual. Hebden Bridge is a bit of a bubble, and then you've got the bubble within the bubble.
It's always been a bit of a quirky place because for generations women here have had jobs and they've been independent of men, and independent women bring up independent children.
It's a lovely place, but it's a very narrow valley. It's a small town, and people can end up with very small town, narrow valley opinions and attitudes towards each other and towards different sections of the community. They might think they're extremely liberated, but actually if they don't get out enough from the valley, it can be very restrictive because you can get very stuck here and you can think that the whole world's like here, but it's not.
I don't know, I don't like all the stuck-up people who act like all hippies, act all like they care about everything, but then actually they're not actually doing anything.
The thing that I'm passionate about is that whatever your beliefs are, and whoever you are, and wherever you're from, and whatever you do in the four walls of your own home, we should all have the same level of respect for each other, and we should be tolerant, and it doesn't matter how well-meaning your own beliefs are, you should also accept those of others.
I mean, Hebden Bridge was an old Methodist sort of town, and it was no nonsense. Get on with it, you know, we get what we work for and all that sort of thing, and now it's developed into something else. Maybe that's what it had to do to survive.
I only have a strong opinion about people who have strong opinions.
You can't just go and get proper cooked home. It is homemade, but it's all like brie and Stilton and goat's cheese. And, you know, I mean, I'm a plain eater, me. I like, you know, egg, chips and beans sort of thing, you know, and some bread and butter. And it's hard to find in everything.
I think tourism is very important, but there's a bit of an imbalance about tourists being catered for. We're oversupplied with cafes, and I miss like valley stores where you could buy, you know, normal things. Hebden's struggling with an overview of what it wants to be in 5 or 10 years' time.
I would like as local Bobby back, honestly. Just the look of a policeman walking round is a good deterrent having a local Bobby. I have one criticism though. Parking.
Parking's a nightmare.
Parking, you can never find a parking spot.
You can't park anywhere.
Parking.
That's a tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, Hebden Bridge. In 5 words, wow.
A nice little town.
I wouldn't like to see it change.
What, in Hebden?
It's good air.
Eclectic.
Good food. Good community.
Friendly.
Weren't we named like the 4th funkiest town in Europe or something daft?
We live in Hebden Bridge.
Hebden Bridge.
Hebden Bridge.
Hebden Bridge. Hebden Bridge.
Hebden Bridge.
Hebden Bridge.
In Hebden.
The reasons why I like Hebden, you feel as if you're in a very centred place.
It was in Tales of the City, I think, by Armistead Mopan, when one of the characters was talking about their Atlantis, and San Francisco was their Atlantis, and Hebden Bridge is my Atlantis.
Well, Hebden Bridge will always be here long after I'm gone. I hope so, anyway. I hope, unless a torrent actually washes it down the valley, but that's highly unlikely.
For Hebden Bridge, I think the future's really quite rosy.
I always knew I'd come here, but I thought I'd be 90 and making pots.
There's a lot of people, they like Hebden, they hate Hebden. I've been here, like I say, since the 80s. I've never fallen out with it yet. I love it.
Let's see, what would I shout back at the sky? It would simply be thank you, Hebden. You know, that's it. It's been home to me for 25 years, and it might end up being home for another 25, who knows.